It's your girl, Sidnee Michelle with Black Enterprise, and I have the privilege of sitting down with Reyna Noriega, visual artist and author. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Sidnee.
Where's your background from?
My father's Cuban,
Okay.
and my mom's Bahamian Jamaican, so
Awesome.
I just have a lot of islands in there.
Very much so, me too.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm Haitian, but
Beautiful.
yes. So tell me a little bit about how you got your start. I read that you started as a school art teacher. Tell me a little bit about your start from then to where you are now. We're gonna get into how successful you are, but just tell me, where did it start for Reyna Noriega?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be an artist. Well, not always. Like, we're talking college. That was something I was pursuing, painting, drawing, and I was plagued with a lot of self-doubt and just not really knowing how to navigate the industry. So once I graduated with my degree, I used it to, teach. And it was meant to be temporary, but I got a job as a high school art teacher.
Okay.
So through that role and just kind of like knowing that I had to show up for my students confidently without any doubt, it really helped me in my own journey to kind of like show up and like really own the season of my journey and not compare myself and all of those things because
So tell me a little bit, what made you want to go from being a high school art teacher to this amazing visual artist and author that's worked with all these companies, which we will get into later. Tell me what made you want to do that change, that pivot from being a school teacher to going into kind of your own creative freedom?
Yeah, so I mean, I was teaching at a school where a lot of the students were not going to go to college, whether it was because their families couldn't afford it, whether it's because they needed to go straight into a trade. And so I was always showing them like art is not only an elective, like if you choose, this could be a path of success for you. So I was bringing in all of my full-time artist friends and showing them what a full-time photographer's lifestyle looks like, what a full-time like graphic designer's life looks like. And at some point I was like bringing in all this inspiration for them and I wasn't taking it myself, So it just kind of started to nag at me as well that like there may be more that I also desire and this may not be my plateau.
I love that. Well, I'm so glad you made that pivot because look where you are now. As we start going into your artwork, you mentioned that your art centers on women of color to install a sense of hope and pride. Was that important to you when starting out, specifically having that niche for Black women and showing Black women in art? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I struggled for a long time to find my style, and then this style evolved from me creating solely for myself. I was decorating a new apartment. I felt like a big girl, just got a loft, and all of the art that I would find that, I kind of liked the style, it just wouldn't have women that looked like me. And then it wasn't colorful enough. So it started off with me wanting to fill my home with bright, vibrant depictions of women that looked like me. And the response that I got and the way that people were able to see themselves in the work, I knew that it was something that was gonna also bring me closer to my purpose.
I love that. Speaking of your work, let's talk about this resume, girl, because it's major. You have partnered with companies like Amex, OLAY, Vitamin Water, Warby Parker, the list goes on. We're gonna talk about seeing your physical products in stores, but just specifically when it comes to partnering with companies, what is something that you look for? Because I'm sure everyone's coming at you. Your talent is amazing, but you really partner with some huge companies. Tell me what specifically you look for when partnering with these companies.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the alignment that my purpose and my goals are going to be amplified through the partnership, and it doesn't feel like temporary or performative. So it's also really important to me because art is oftentimes not accessible to people of color. Like when we think of galleries and museums, those aren't always the most welcoming places to people like that look like you and I. And so part of why I was creating my work was to bring it to my community and show them how important and necessary art was. And being able to put it on affordable, tangible products that people are using every day, I felt like that makes the representation even more profound because you're seeing it constantly, right? If it's a brush, you're thinking about it every time you brush your hair. If it's a t-shirt that you're putting on that becomes your favorite t-shirt, it's always reminding you that you're worthy, that you're beautiful, that you are a piece of art.
Yes, ma'am. And I love that. I love seeing your work in relation to these companies, because you have a specific type of art, and when I see that with Amex, with Warby Parker, I'm like, that's Reyna. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Talk about the actual products and the feeling of seeing your work in Walmart, in PacSun. I mean, you designed a shoe for Dolce & Gabbana, correct?
I didn't design the shoe. I was like their Miami creative director for this campaign they were doing.
So,
but maybe one day.
One day we'll manifest that. Creative directing for Dolce & Gabbana.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me what that feeling is like, you know, when you're on set with a huge brand such as Dolce & Gabbana, when you walk into Walmart, walk into PacSun, and you see your work. What's that feeling like?
You know, I think a lot of times I don't even register what it means to me, but even kind of tying in what I write about in my books, it's all kind of debunking that, like, I am special. I'm not going to say I'm not special, but I'm not any more special than you or someone else. And my journey has led me here. And if I could do it, you can do it too. So I feel like when they put my name or my face in these spaces, and other younger girls that are interested in art, that have maybe been told that it's not a viable career or something like that, they can kind of see that example and know that if I could do it, why not them?
Very much so. You segued into my next question. Talk about art as a career, as a business. And I love that you represent your passion can be your business. Talk to me a little bit about making your passion a business, a profitable business at that.
Yeah, I mean, for art specifically, sometimes it's confusing to me that I grew up with the worry that art was not profitable, because as I used to teach my students, there is an artist in each of these rooms, right? There's an artist that is designing this couch, the apps on your phone, the games on your PlayStation, the designs on your notebooks. Like, there is an artist for all of these things, and somehow we kind of like internalize this fear that artists, starving artists, like, you have to just kind of pick one. You have to pick your passion, or you have to pick your financial security. And so I have learned that that's not true. And even beyond the lanes that I end up and the space that I take up, there's so many other directions an artist could take to make money. And I think that it takes a lot of discipline to make your passion your full time, because it's no longer about creative inspiration and creating when I feel like it. It's like, it requires a real schedule. It requires knowing my limits, you know, it requires hard conversations, a lot of things that you might want to shy away from if you're just thinking of like doing what is comfortable.
Right.
So
I love that. I definitely love that. For all those young girls, especially young women of color, Black women, that want to be the next Reyna Noriega, what do you tell them? I know there's probably so much advice you could give, but if you had to pick, let's say 3 things in relation to having a career in this field, what would you tell those young ladies who see you and think, I can do it too?
Ooh, okay, 3 things.
Three things.
The first thing I always say is to find you first and kind of like look within. There's a lot of inner self-work that has to happen in order for you to get over the imposter syndrome, like just all of those things, the self-doubt, all of the internal things that could lead to self-sabotage. So you want to kind of like spend time with yourself. Don't be in such a rush to quit your job and be full-time this and full-time that before you've really gotten a grip on who you are and why you are the way you are and what you want to offer the world. So I think that's the first thing. Also, I think, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You want to build longevity. You don't want to peak. And, you know, and kind of like building the foundation is very, 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 very important. Making sure you're prepared for what you're calling in. Because if you're not disciplined, if you don't have good communication skills, and Nike knocks on your door, and you freak out because you're like, oh my God, this is Nike, and you don't know how to communicate, and you don't know how to negotiate, like, you will have to deal with that heartbreak of messing up something because you weren't prepared. So it's like, see the vision of where you want to go and start to prepare yourself now.
Definitely, definitely.
I don't know if that was 2 or 3.
That was 3.
I feel like I
major facts, guys. Pay attention. Just to wrap, I want to talk about your team, or if you don't, or if it's a team of one. In a business, a lot of times, especially as Black women, we take on so much by ourselves, and we don't have to. I'm definitely a person who's victim of no one's gonna do it better than me, so let me just do it. But in business, you can't do it by yourself. Talk to me a little bit about your team, or is it a team of one? Tell me a little bit about your team and how you're supported throughout your career.
Right, so that for me has been a journey. So I started off as a team of one, doing everything for myself, accounting and being the lawyer and being the manager and negotiating and doing my online orders. And at some point, I little by little found a team in friends and family. And so I didn't have the leadership skills though to manage that, and I didn't have the ability to delegate. I think that I'm so used to doing things on my own. I only know how to ask for help when I'm overwhelmed. And then once I get that help and I'm not overwhelmed, I don't have the systems in place to have that help continuously. So that's been the case with any assistant that I've had. It's been like, you know, like I've asked for things and then I'm like, I'm just not gonna ask because it takes too long. But so that's something I'm actively working on. And yeah, so now I'm back to basics, kind of. Like I think I had a manager before I had like a lawyer and an accountant. So now I don't have a manager, but I have a lawyer and accountant. So we're figuring out the basics so that as I build out a team, it'll be on the proper foundation.
Definitely. I'm excited to see your team grow. I'm very familiar with teams up and down, in and out, but I really want that for you.
Thank you.
Because honestly, being the amazing creative that you are, it'll just make your life easier.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that for you. Last question. You are a part of the creative class for 2023. I am too. So shout out to us. I wanted you to talk to the creatives in the visual art space. Talk to them about achieving or underachieving in that space, because I know that sometimes we look and we compare ourselves, compare our journeys to other people in similar industries. I'm trying to talk us out of that. So tell me a little bit about speaking to the creatives, you know, the ones in our creative class, the ones that want to make the creative class in the future. Shout out to CCNY and CultureCon. But talk to me, for the future creatives, what does that look like to really own our journey and not compare it to others? Because I just feel like that's kind of like the theme of us creatives. We look at Instagram and TikTok and we see everyone doing sometimes what we're not. And totally depletes our self-confidence, sometimes our drive. Speak to those creatives, because I got so much to tell them, but this is about you. Speak to those creatives so they cannot do that, and they, you know, can avoid the burnout. They can avoid the low self-confidence. I really, really want the next creative class to not go through kind of what we went through. So talk to them about that.
So, I have so many different things I could say about that. I would say comparison is the thief of joy.
Amen.
I would say being surrounded by people that are pushing barriers should inspire you to do more. But also you cannot, especially I've been realizing that, and I talked about that last year when I was traveling through Europe a lot. Like, you can't make your Sistine Chapel if you're trying to pump out 30 reels a month, because that's what the algorithm needs. Like, you need to also be true to your craft and like trust in the timing and the process so that we can build things that last. Because building or creating art as content so that it could have, like, I wouldn't even say a 24-hour life cycle. I feel like the first 2 or 3 hours you post it, after that it's like forgotten. You're doing yourself a disservice and the world a disservice, because you're robbing us of the next great masterpiece that is for you and you alone to create. And I've also found a lot of peace lately in just realizing that, like, God, source, whatever you believe in, like, they're tailoring your journey to exactly what you can handle and exactly what you need. And in my house buying process, I went through that a lot, where, like, inside I was manifesting like 5 bedrooms, 2-story, one, you know, a huge house. But it's like, maybe it's not my season for that, and also maybe I can't handle that, and maybe that blessing that I'm like so bent on because my house needs to be this big and I need to be like, maybe that would instead take me away from what it is that I'm meant to be doing in this season and focusing on my craft, and I would be like maintaining a house, you know? So I had to kind of like really accept that and kind of accept that like you're gonna get everything that's meant for you and the time that it's meant for you and the way that it's meant for you, so that hopefully you can handle it, maintain it, and expand from it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for these gems, Reyna. I know have so many people who are interested in being visual artists, who are interested in doing what you do, and I know this advice will be golden for them. I'm gonna do a shameless plug for Reyna because we want to know what's coming next. You're an author also, so talk about the book and what's coming next.
Yeah, so far I've published 3 poetry collections, and they're different times throughout my journey. I kind of like, you know, when I'm writing through stuff, I combine it all and make it digestible for the next person that's on a similar journey to understand that they're not alone and understand that each of these lessons are leading them somewhere. So I'm working on my 4th at the moment and just making a lot of art. Art Basel is around the corner. So there's also, you know, there's my digital art and collaboration side, but there's also, you know, my fine art side. So nurturing all the sides of me.
I love it. We love a well-balanced queen, okay? Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Guys, this was an amazing conversation with author and visual illustrator Reyna Noriega. Hope you guys are taking notes. Until next time, thank you guys so much. Your girl, Sidnee Michelle.